Greetings from the Admirals Club in Mexico City, where I'll be commencing today's adventure. I'll be flying American Airlines Flagship First Class on their Boeing 777-300ER from Dallas-Fort Worth to Madrid, Spain. Hello, YouTube travelers, and welcome to the Gentlemen of Fortune channel. Join me on my travels around the world, and together we'll review the latest in-flight and lounge offerings, find out how various airlines' first and business class products stack up, and sample their catering and indulge in their finest champagnes. Together, we'll experience the best of the best, and maybe some more obscure ones as well. So be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss a thing. And now I invite you to sit back and relax as we get this next review underway. So why am I starting this video in Mexico City? Well, I'll have more on that later in the video. But for now, I figured I'd show you around the club, seeing as I'm the only person here at 7 o'clock in the morning. They had a pretty nice food spread featuring some local cuisine. I was happily able to fuel up before my flight. I enjoyed the quesadillas, the chilaquiles, as well as all the fresh fruit. There's also a bunch of pastries and bread products for those who are looking to carb load. The lounge features ample seating. As I mentioned previously, and as you can clearly see, there's not another soul in here. I'm not sure if it becomes much busier at other parts of the day, but I would hazard to guess that even at the busiest times, you could still find a seat. And even though it was only 7 o'clock in the morning, they had a full bar with bartender service should you want it. All right, let's head to Dallas-Fort Worth for the meat and potatoes of this video. And there she is, Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport. Conveniently, I didn't have to collect my checked luggage, as it was checked all the way through from Mexico City to Madrid, and I could focus on the task at hand, getting myself to the Flagship Lounge. American Airlines Flagship Lounge in Dallas-Fort Worth Airport has a great variety of food and drink options. I'm especially fond of the Bloody Mary station, which features all the requisite condiments and garnishes to make a truly epic Bloody Mary. And since I've already been up for several hours today, I think that'll be next on my agenda after I film this for you. And next to the Bloody Mary bar, they've got some signage which tells you how to make a margarita or a Bloody Mary, as you like. Moving on, you can see that they have a very nice selection of premium liquors available in the self-service bar area. Again, there's plenty of glassware, ice, and garnishes to make a great cocktail to your liking. They also offer a large selection of teas and have a nice coffee machine. For those who prefer beer, there's plenty of options on that front as well. It's still a bit early today, but they often feature a live cooking station at this location. And down at this end, they have a selection of sweet treats available. And interestingly enough, a ramen and miso soup station. As far as food goes, guests of the Flagship Lounge can enjoy a large range of hot and cold options from the self-service buffet. I, for one, am going to hold off on grabbing any food for now to save some of my appetite for the main event, which is exclusively for first-class guests, and which I'll show you shortly. With that being said, however, I think it's finally time to enjoy that Bloody Mary. Look at this masterpiece. And I hope you can forgive me, but I couldn't resist the temptations of the roving cannoli craftsman. He travels around the lounge visiting guests' tables and chairs and offers to fill a cannoli and to provide fresh toppings of their choice. Your travel can only get better with a delicious cannoli. Seeing as I figured I might as well get into the holiday spirit, I elected to go with the crushed peppermint candy pieces and the white chocolate beads. And the results were this tasty treat. Okay, now I previously alluded to the main event. International first-class passengers are invited into the inner sanctum to enjoy the Flagship First Dining. Now, this is American Airlines' most exclusive offering, which features a premium bar as well as a la carte dining. Flagship First Dining is now limited to DFW, LAX, and Miami. It also used to be available at JFK. It still somewhat exists, but it's been repackaged in the form of the Chelsea Lounge experience. I will say that during my time at the flagship dining in Dallas, I saw a steady stream of people being turned away. I would venture to say that 9 out of every 10 people that showed up were denied access. The strict access control leads to a fairly private venue, but it does make me wonder how they justify the overhead of this distinctive experience when they have so few flights with qualifying fare classes. Now here's a look at the current menu offerings. I started off with the blackberry old fashioned. It was very tasty, which is to be expected because it's so sweet. As for dining, my meal began with an amuse-bouche of watermelon and tomato gazpacho. For an appetizer, I had the yellow tuna tartare. Nice presentation, and it tasted great. In an effort to prolong the experience, I took my time with the meal and ordered another cocktail, the Bujo Nocturno. Proceeding the next course, some delicious focaccia bread was brought out, featuring a little cone of butter in a smoky bell jar. For my main meal, I ordered the petite filet with the herb peppercorn crust. It occurred to me that I better order this on the ground since American Airlines doesn't offer steak on their in-flight menu. I paired this with a glass of Zinfandel, which had a nice flavor and complemented the meal. As for the dessert, I decided to go with the passion fruit tiramisu. I saw that another guest had ordered it and it caught my eye. It was tasty, but perhaps not the best dessert ever. With some of the ladyfinger cookies becoming soggy, it creates a bit of an unusual texture profile. So I decided to end on a high note with some Laurent Perrier Grand Siècle. And this did not disappoint. Overall, the flagship first dining experience was excellent, offering a nice menu selection, tasty food, thoughtful service, and placing it firmly into the good category. Now it's time to head to the gate, where we'll be taking this Boeing 777-300ER to Madrid this evening. When I arrived at the gate, there was already a mass of humanity clogging the entrance to the boarding lanes. I milled about for a bit, waiting for the boarding process to begin. For most of the day, this flight had been projected to depart 40 minutes after the originally scheduled time. Around 10 minutes after the new scheduled departure time, the flight was further delayed about 14 more minutes. And then, fairly quickly after that, we were told that due to maintenance reasons, they would have to get a whole new plane and to come back in 4 hours. The airline proactively sent out food vouchers to people's email, but for only a whopping $12, which probably won't get you much in the airport. The fact that they had a maintenance issue that delayed the flight so long was bad, but I was quite impressed that they provided information to keep us updated and that they were so quick in making a decision about rescheduling the flight so that we weren't held forever captive in the gate area with a rolling delay. I was also impressed at first blush that they proactively provided the meal voucher, but its meager amount was pretty bad, and when I tried to use it, it didn't work. I was told by the restaurant that none of the QR codes worked that day, so that was pretty ugly. Overall, this situation was decidedly a mixed bag. Luckily for me, I had the flagship lounge to return to, and I was welcomed back with open arms into the flagship first dining, so I took full advantage of that. This time around, I decided to try something different. I started with the summer tonic, which I found to be very bitter and not too appetizing. For the appetizer, I thought I'd try the lemon and ricotta ravioli. And who doesn't love a burger, so I figured I'd give this a try as well. It was very good, and look at how cool this is. The bun even has seared into it the logo design, which they call the flight symbol. Now this time for dessert, I decided to go with the rhubarb and rose creme brulee. At this point, I was so stuffed I could barely eat another bite, but I will tell you that the dessert was delicious. Finally, after hours of delay in the lounge, it was time to board our new aircraft to Madrid. Now here's a first look around my seat, 1J. You can see there's quite a bit of bedding waiting for me at the seat, as well as a pair of headphones. As far as the seat itself goes, it looks like a fairly comfortable armchair. At your shoulder level, you've got a little compartment that has all of your various plugs. There's also a personal lamp. Down below the plug cabinet, which features a little vanity mirror, you've got the remote control for the IFE. Here you can see the headphone case. There's also a small touchscreen which controls the seat features. Next to that, we have food and beverage menus. These are both printed on a fairly lightweight paper, which makes it seem a little bit tacky. It would be decidedly more premium if it was printed on some type of cardstock. Down near the companion bench, there's a small literature pocket. And above that is the TV, which is a little bit outdated today considering its size. Knee level, there's a little storage pocket that they've left me some slippers in. And the life vest pouch is attached to the side of the seat down there. Also in the knee area is a little panel containing a couple buttons to turn on the light as well as deploy the TV and the tray table. While I was settling in, the flight attendant came around and dropped off an amenity kit. Let's take a look. The band says Raven Lily X American. This looks pretty nice. I'm excited to see what's inside it. But first, let's take a look at their impressive paper menus. There was an option to pre-order on today's flight, which I did. However, I was curious to see if the actual meals on board would be different than those that were offered beforehand. In this case, they were the same, but I suppose there's always the possibility that local catering might have different options. To be honest, I wasn't really all that impressed with any of the options, which is pretty surprising considering that this is Dallas-Fort Worth, the airline's home base. I feel like there's a lot of room for improvement on their menu options for first class. All right, we've still got some time, so let's dig into this amenity kit a little bit and take a look at what it's got. For starters, I like this new design. I think it's a lot better than the old one that they used to offer. It also looks like it might convert into some type of functional travel pouch. Yeah, so look at this. I can see that there's a strap in here that you can use to make it a over-shoulder type of thing. That's a pretty cool idea. Next, we've got this refreshing Oshiburi towelette, which is branded Joanne Vargas. Then, if I can get it out, we've got this little promotional material card here. We've got a pair of socks here with some embroidery. If I'm honest, I'm not super keen on the color combination. Then we've got an eye mask here. Again, kind of ugly, but it looks functional. Now we've got a little paper bag here with some cosmetics in that. Take a look at that here in just a second. Again, it's from Joanne Vargas. Then we've got some tissues. Is there anything else in here? Oh yes, let's see. We've got a dental kit. And a pair of earplugs. And that's everything that we've got. Yeah, it's nice. I like this. Oh, and wait, we got to check out the cosmetics here. We've got some lip balm, some body and hand lotion, and some facial mist. And those again are all branded Joanne Vargas. So while I was tearing the amenity kit apart, the flight attendant came back around and dropped off a pair of pajamas from the brand Nest. Now these are made from a very thin fabric, and while they're comfortable enough for a single use, I don't know how well they'll hold up if you wash them and try to use them multiple times. Alright, with all those amenities looked at, it looks like they've closed up the aircraft and pushed us back, so we're ready to start taxiing and get on our way to Madrid. After a slow taxi, we finally made it over the runway for takeoff. All right, now that we're underway, let's get this tray table out and see what else we can take a look at. Wow, this is a really good size. Okay, here's a look at the headphones that they provide for first class on American. They're manufactured by Bang & Olufsen, and I find them to be very high quality. In fact, for years I would select these as my gift for Executive Platinum. They're really substantial and quite comfortable. This is definitely something worthy of first class in my opinion. Here's another look at the pajamas, which is kind of a counterpoint. Not very substantial in my opinion. You notice there's no buttons or anything, but they're comfortable enough. Board service begins with the delivery of a little hot towelette. It's also not very substantial, really nothing more than a wet paper towel. Food and beverage service begins with a tablecloth. I was also offered a drink, some olives and nuts. I neglected to mention that on the ground I was offered a welcome drink. Having spent so much time in the lounge before the flight though, I passed on anything. For my appetizer, I had ordered the poached Maine lobster. Maybe it's hiding in here somewhere. I think there is some lobster meat inside of this cucumber, but it's nothing substantial. For the soup course, I went with the beer cheese soup, featuring the pretzel roll croutons. I found this to be kind of watery and not too impressive. When selecting my entree, I thought the soy ginger short ribs sounded most appealing. It wasn't that exciting though, so I only had a bite or two. Plus the peas had a fairly potent odor, which didn't contribute to my appetite. After dinner, I went to the lavatory to clean up and get ready for bed. This seems like another lost opportunity for American. Considering that this is first class, there's almost no toiletries or amenities in here. It was clean, which is the most important thing, but otherwise it doesn't really compare favorably to any other airline's first-class lavatories. Following my visit to the lavatory, I returned to my seat and made my own bed. I'm not sure if the flight attendants would normally make it for you as a first-class passenger, but they were still actively engaged in the meal service, so I didn't want to disturb them. The lights were still bright in the cabin, but I took advantage of the eye mask from the amenity kit to try to get some sleep since I'd been up all day and it was now well after midnight. I had to wait till later in the flight to get some footage of the bed for you, which is why it's dark now. This is an older product, and I found that the bed wasn't particularly wide, a feature that today separates first class and business class products. For this reason, I didn't sleep very well. I got up and changed back into my clothes about an hour before arrival. I wanted to show you what is arguably the most unique feature of this first class seat on American Airlines, and that's the ability to swivel the seat around perpendicular to the aircraft so that you're facing out the window. Even though the cabin is still dark, you can still get a sense of how the seat looks. For those sitting in seats in the center of the aircraft, you can actually swivel the seats around to face each other, which is nice if you're traveling with a companion. It's a great way to eat together. In the window seats, this is probably not that practical, but it's still a neat way to sit and look out the window and possibly get some work done. The countertop does flip out, which creates another tray table that you can use as a work surface. I could see from looking out the window that we were starting to get pretty low. On the flight information screen, you can see we're passing through 13,000 feet. Interestingly enough, there were no announcements made, and there were still passengers sleeping in the bed fully extended. This bizarre omission caused commotion in the cabin, as flight attendants frantically pounded on the lavatory doors trying to extricate passengers just 2 to 3 minutes prior to touchdown. We ended up landing in Madrid about 45 minutes behind schedule. Once on the ground, from the time they opened the cargo doors until the luggage was delivered at the baggage claim, it took a full 50 minutes, ensuring that I would miss my connection the second time it had been rescheduled that day. So their ground handling services fall squarely in the ugly category. I can't imagine that Emirates first-class passengers are waiting 50 minutes for their luggage to be delivered. Even though there's a private ground services contractor in Madrid, it seems that American Airlines' permissive culture of non-accountability is probably responsible for this. So let's talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'll start with the bad and the ugly so that we can end on a high note. Maintenance issues sometimes happen, but delays are bad, obviously, and should be mitigated so that passengers aren't left having to coordinate new connecting flights. I did appreciate, however, the communication and the decisiveness when it came to rescheduling the flight. The food on board is not reflective of a first-class experience. I would go so far as to say that it is bad, considering the class of service. I've even had better catering on American Airlines in business class from other destinations such as Narita. I find this strange, especially when comparing it to the experience in the flagship first dining on the ground. The hard product itself, specifically the seat width and the TV size, are a testament to how dated the product is, even if it does have the unique swivel feature. I did find the meager value of the food voucher to be disappointing, and the fact that it didn't work added insult to injury, even though the cause could have rested with the particular restaurant. I also found the luggage handling on the ground to be especially egregious. On a positive note, however, the flagship lounge, the whole experience really, and especially the flagship dining in Dallas, were fantastic. Now to take us all the way back for a second to the beginning of the video and why I was in Mexico City, I was able to book this flight from Mexico City to Dallas in business class and from Dallas to Madrid in first class for only $2,500, which I think is a good price considering it's cheaper than most business class flights from the US to Europe. Well, with that being said, I'm going to wrap up this video. I hope you enjoyed it and found it informative. And like always, until the next video, safe travels.